Namaste, nerds. It's Navanad, Budget Pub Stomper, and today I've got something for you guys. I've been sitting on this for a while. I've been brewing on it for a long time. I mean, I have been doing some serious cooking. You will not often see my deck lists on unlisted, but this one's unlisted because I've got some stuff going on here that I don't want leaking out to all the people that are not Budget Pub Stomper fanboys and girls, fanfolk. This is Norman Osborn. This is also the Green Goblin. And I know I'm actually surprised that this isn't making more waves than it is, but I think maybe we're just a little bit ahead of the curve here. I think probably you're going to start seeing deck text for this guy pop up all over the place. I believe this is a cEdh, I don't want to say all-star, but I mean, I think this is going to make waves in cEdh. It's got the Grixis core, which is just automatically good, but man, it also just plays so well with so many of the things that Grixis wants to do, not just in cEdh, but competitive decks, well, competitive play, period. And so we're going to do some busted competitive things with the Green Goblin. Normally the way that I talk about my decks and do my deck techs is I move into the combo kills first. We talk about how we're going to win the game. Then we go back and we discuss some of the synergies. And we always start by explaining the commander. But I don't know, like I might dart around a little bit. There's so many layers of combo-y kind of crazy synergistic goodness in this deck. First and foremost, I just want to say I think it's fantastic that we finally get to use Diamond Lion. This is like a fixed LED, right? And it really is a fixed LED. I mean, we've got to turn it on with, well, we've got to give it haste to make it go crazy. But once we give it haste, which we have plenty of ways to do in the deck, well, then we've got our LED breach combo going. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's read the commander. Norman Osborn. This is our guy here, our homie Norman. Norman cannot be blocked. That's not flavor text. That matters quite a lot. We're going to use that. And it says, whenever Norman Osborn deals combat damage to a player, he connives. That means you draw a card and discard a card. And then if the card you discard is not a land, you put a +1/+1 counter on the conniving guy. And Norman Osborn is nothing if not conniving. So now the question you might have, my astute audience members might have, is does this matter because are we ever even going to play this guy out, or are we just going to drop him as the green guy? Well, no, we are going to play him as his gentlemanly form most of the time. So he is a 1/1 unblockable conniver, and we're kind of like a mid-range value generating kind of a, not exactly a control deck, but we're skewed a little bit that way. We're a mid-range deck. We're a grindy deck, and we've got Norman Osborn as a pretty good little early value engine that's also going to fuel our late game nastiness, which we'll get into in a moment. But let's talk about what happens when we play the other side. So the way these cards work, we can either play Norman out or we can play the Green Goblin out. We can either pay the 2 mana for Norman, or we can pay the 4 mana, Grixis in 1, to play the Green Goblin directly. But if we have the Norman Osborn side in play, we can pay at any time, well, at sorcery speed. We can pay Grixis in 1, so 4 mana total, to get him transformed to this just nasty commander. Not a big, huge fan of Universes Beyond, but I am a major fan of this card. This thing is freaking yoked, guys. This is a 3/3 flying menace. Never mind the fact that he has a whole other side to him, but even if it was just this guy, if this was the only thing, if we didn't even have the other side of this commander, which genuinely I think adds a lot of value to the deck, a tremendous amount of value to the deck. But even if we didn't have it, I still would have built this deck, and I would be almost as excited about it. In fact, when I was first kind of theory crafting, and I've done a lot of theory crafting with this one, guys, I was kind of thinking that we would just play the Green Goblin, and we would never worry about Norman, but the more I goldfished it and iterated and goldfished and iterated, the more I realized that playing it out as the 2 mana side first is generally going to be just better. But there will be times when you just play this guy down for his mana cost, 4 mana, 1 colorless, and Grixis. You get a Flying Menace 3/3. that has spells that you cast from your graveyard cost 2 less to cast. That's big. That's like a huge mana engine right there. If you build your deck around it a little bit, that is a major cost reduction savings, and there's tons and tons of ways to break that. But it doesn't end there. I mean, that's just the beginning of the value that this guy has. He comes with this other ability that's just as crazy. Each non-land card in your graveyard has Mayhem. The Mayhem cost is equal to the mana cost. What is Mayhem? Well, Mayhem says, I'll just read the text, you may cast a card from your graveyard for its Mayhem cost if you discarded it this turn. Timing rules do apply. Thank God. Okay, so what is that? Like, is there an easier way to say that? Basically, anytime we discard a card, we still get to have that card. Just for that turn. But, you know, you can... So you have any way you have of generating value by discarding cards. The big downside is you get rid of an entire card in your hand. That's a big drawback, right? Like if you have a card that's like one of the many cards that's just discard one card and draw 2 cards. That major drawback of having to discard one of your cards is why you get to draw 2 cards, usually for like relatively cheap. Well, here we're basically negating that entire downside, huge downside of having to discard the card by giving it Mayhem, which just effectively says instead of discarding the card, just don't. That's basically what the text is. Anytime you would discard a card, just don't discard it instead. It's almost like that. I mean, if you're selective a little bit about how you do it, it's going to read effectively that. Like any card that would have you discard a card for value, just keep the card instead. That would be busted, right? It's worse than that or better than that. It's crazier than that. Because these cards that we discard but don't discard, we discard them so we're not able to play them, except for we all are able to play them until the end of turn. They come with a 2 generic mana discount. So all you have to pay... Well, usually all you're going to have to pay for are the pips. God, that's just so much... That's so much text and so much value that they decided to just pile onto this already crazy colored Grixis guy that they had to put it on 2 fucking sides, guys. This thing is jacked. Seriously, messed up Magic the Gathering card. The question is, because this is like... It's not like it doesn't pull us in a direction. It does. We've got directions to go in. I mean, this deck has been... an Underworld Breach deck, of course. It's been a Wheels Thief deck, like Opus Thief style, like Narset and Notion Thief with all the wheels. It's been a Wheel Thief deck. It's been a Reanimator deck. It's been like a Hoarding Broodlord deck. It's been an Asmodeus. But we didn't end up on that either. There's tons and tons of ways that we could have chose, tons and tons of paths we could have went down. But I went down a unique path that I don't think, I haven't seen anybody else toying with this little combo package in the green Goblin decks that I've seen, and I've looked at a lot of them. We are using a Pheto Alchemist and Unctist Grand Metatect. I feel like this is the perfect home for this little A plus B combo. And let me just kind of give you the basics as to why. So, Norman Osborn may not be a kill-on-sight commander, but Green Goblin sure as shit is a kill-on-sight commander. This dude is going to let us just, like, discard cards and just pretend like we didn't. So, anytime you wheel, say you're going to, even like the little baby wheels, like where you discard 5 and draw 5, for instance, they're just going to basically read, draw 5 cards, but keep the 5 cards that you have. You just have to cast them this turn. And if you're selective about what you're discarding, that's going to be simple, right? But it also gives you a 2 mana discount on anything you play from your graveyard, no matter how you play it. It doesn't have to have been put in from, I mean, it just any way that a card goes into your graveyard and yet you're still allowed to cheatingly cast it, you get a 2 mana discount. So you get rewarded for your shenanigans. Like, this isn't just, like we complain sometimes about cards being too busted because they reward you for playing Magic, like for just doing things you're gonna do anyway, things you're supposed to do anyway. Like Tatyova, everybody complains because, well, you have to play lands anyway, and this is just rewarding you for a thing that you have to do anyway, a thing you are gonna do anyway. Well, the Green Goblin rewards you for doing shit that you're not supposed to do. The Green Goblin rewards you for breaking things. It's like, oh, you're doing some broken thing. Well, here, I'm going to make it more broken. It's not just like when you're doing normal things, we're going to reward you. No, this is when you're doing shady bullshit. We're going to reward you for doing the shady bullshit. So the shady bullshit becomes shadier bullshittier. So yeah, this is so this guy is a kill on sight commander, which means even though I usually don't play these cards and I'm not a big fan of these cards in general, it means I was feeling a very strong urge to slap Lightning Greaves into the deck. And in fact, I went with Lightning Greaves and the Lava Spur boots. And I wouldn't think it crazy to even add the other pair of boots. Like Swiftfoot boots is probably like the 105th card that I'd want to add to this deck. So we've got a desire, a need really to play these Swiftfoot boots, Lava Spur boots type effects, which give haste. And we've got a really good reason to play Anger and use haste, the Diamond Lion, which we're going to combo with. You probably figured it by now. We're going to combo that up with Underworld Breach. And since we're going to be using Anger to give our things haste, and we're going to be using the boots to give our things protection, but also consequently giving them haste, we're going to be able to use a Fetal Alchemist and Unctus Grand Metatech, because the only kind of problem with these creatures, this little combo package here, these two guys, this A plus B, is that they have summoning sickness. So you've got to wait for the summoning sickness to wear off before you can actually win the game with this combo. And it does require a little bit of build around. So if you're not familiar, this guy says tap to untap target artifact or creature. It does not say tap to untap other artifact or creature. So you can tap the Fetal Alchemist to untap itself. That's the trick here. And Unctus says, whenever blue creatures you control become tapped, you draw a card and discard a card. So normally, just as a base thing, these two creatures, if you have them together and unsummoning sick, they're going to allow you to loot through your entire deck. So you're just going to be able to tap and untap this guy over and over and just draw a card, discard a card, draw a card, discard a card. So you can loot through your entire deck and find whatever card you want to find or assemble whatever combo you're playing in your deck. But you can also deck yourself. You can deck out with this combo and then just play like a Laboratory Maniac and then activate again and then win the game. But the big drawbacks are not having haste. They don't have haste. They have summoning sickness generally. And so the deck itself is going to avoid that by pitching Anger. Maybe we've got there's tons of ways to pitch Anger. You may have guessed that. So we're going to put Anger in the graveyard, or we're going to put boots on these guys. So we've got tons of ways to get, very simple ways to get these guys without haste. So we don't have to worry about the summoning sickness. But the other big kind of drawback, like the only thing that keeps this combo from just running totally amok and going complete like insanity all over every format they're legal in, is that you have to discard the card. You can't just draw cards, right? I mean, that would be crazy if you could just use these two creatures to just draw. Just this A plus B just draws your deck with no downside. Well, that's effectively what we're doing if we have the Green Goblin in play, because all of the cards that we're discarding with the one guy, we're still allowed to play those cards. But it's better than that because we want to discard them because now they're 2 mana cheaper. So we can we actively want to pitch the cards. It is better for us to discard them than to just keep them. So if we have our commander in play, guys, and we have this... I can't pronounce it. A Fetal Alchemist with Unctus. If we have these guys in play, it just is a little bit better than draw your entire deck. It's just a little bit better than that. It's actually quite a lot better than that because you also get a 2 mana discount on every card that you choose to discard. And you can decide which ones you discard and whatever you keep in your hand, right? Okay, so that's the cool tech that I came up with that I don't see anybody else on. Diamond Lion, I think people are wise to this. This was, I wasn't the first person to come up with this idea. Obviously, if you're playing in budgetless cEdh, you just play like actual factual LED. Because actual factual LED, how am I doing on time? Jeez, oh Pete. Man, time flies when you're having fun. I cannot believe that we're already 15 minutes and a half, almost 16 minutes into this video, not helping. Okay, so yeah, everybody knows that if you're playing budgetless, this thing with Lion's Eye Diamond just turns Lion's Eye Diamond into not Black Lotus, like better Black Lotus. Because you're getting the 3 mana, but then you're also getting a 2 mana cost reduction on everything you put into the graveyard. This Green Goblin literally made One with Nothing a playable Magic the Gathering card. Well, not to mention, breaks Diamond Lion for sure. Okay, so I need to speed this up because we're already halfway through how much time I wanted to spend explaining, because I wanted to goldfish the deck so you could see the wicked, crazy, kind of wonky shit that it does. Anyway, so this guy, yeah, he breaks things. He breaks everything. Everything that's unfair becomes unfairer. He doesn't even break things. He takes things that were broken and he breaks them. So think about like snapping a card over your knee, like snapping Diamond Lion over your knee. But he takes that, like half of the Diamond Lion? He takes half of that fucker and breaks it again. And diamonds are notoriously difficult to break. But this guy pulled it off, no problem, with flair. So yeah, Green Goblin, Diamond Lion, a Phaedo Alchemist, Unctus. We've got some things going on here, right? There's other stuff, right? Like obviously we could do a reanimation package. I elected to not do the reanimation package. I tried it. It just felt like the deck was trying to do too many things. So I stuck with the things that were the most compact and had the most flow and synergy together, because we had to keep save room for doing things like not dying, not losing the game to a turn 3 Selvala or Ral win attempt, right? So we've got tons of creature removal. We've got a good Grixis package for, a Braid, Offer, Arcane Denial. We've got, all of the best counter magic, pretty much all the best removal spells. And Grixis is jacked. I don't know if you've noticed, but yeah, we've got all the good stuff here. We've got Offer and Miscast and Dispel. Drown in a Lock is particularly good here. We are playing a few wheels. Now, I decided that I didn't want to be doing the Wheel Thief thing. For one reason is, like, even though it does layer so well with Underworld Breach, I've decided that when I set up to do my Breach wins, since we are not playing budgetless cEdh, we don't have access to like all the free counter spells. Although discarding them and being able to cast Negate for 1 blue doesn't hurt, right? But still, I decided that I wanted to focus on the wheels that didn't wheel your opponents, so that when you're going through a Breach line with one of your wheels, you're the only one that's drawing cards over and over and over. But I'll just say, if you get Underworld Breach in play with this guy in play, if your commander's out and you cast your Underworld Breach, if you've got basically anything to follow it up with, you're essentially going to win the game. Yeah, so we had to have room for the rocks. This is a 3-color budget deck, so we had to put a lot of lands in. I think like 33 or 34. I know that's more lands than I usually do run, but I think it's super important to hit your land drops, and this deck is uniquely able, out of like all the decks that I've played, it's uniquely able to just get rid of the cards that it doesn't want and turn them into other cards, right? Like we have no problem discarding cards and drawing new cards with the cards that we didn't want. We can replace the cards we don't want. So I think it's more important that we make sure that we hit our land drop. So I went a little bit heavier on lands. Plus we are a 3-color budget deck. And then I loaded us up with Artifact Ramp, the 2 mana, like the Arcane Signets and the Talisman, the Felwar Stone. These cards I had in the deck for a number of reasons, but when I was planning on playing the deck as a Green Goblin deck, it just made all the sense in the world, right? Like you're going to ramp to 4. But even now that I'm most of the time running Norman Osborn out first, I feel like it's still just a really good idea to add a rock into your curve, so that you can hold up interaction when you start to get your stuff going. This is not a deck that's going to just turbo off and win. That is not what we're doing, and you have to be very clear about that. That is not what we're doing. This commander provides just uber value. It provides just an abundance, an overwhelming abundance of mana and cards and just bustedness. So we need to drag the game out long enough that we can assemble our pieces. So we're kind of like a control deck. We don't want to turbo off. And so the the rocks and the interaction and kind of going a little bit slower, I think is the better plan. Underworld Breach is the centerpiece of the deck. This is, you can mark my words, the best Underworld Breach deck that you're going to get for $100 budget competitive play. There is not, I mean, Dihada is pretty good, but still, like, there's some problems. This deck with Underworld Breach is like peanut butter and jelly. Like, the commander was made to break Underworld Breach. I know, like, to break one of the most broken cards ever printed, and it does. Let me tell you, let me explain how broken this is. I'm going to put this in, I was going to talk about talismans and how important I thought they were going to be to the deck because we're doing these breachy grinding station type things, and we'll get to that hopefully. But look at just this one interaction. I think this will paint the whole picture. So if you're not familiar with Underworld Breach and grinding station, basically the way this works is you play your Underworld Breach and you've got your grinding station out. Now you have let's just say you have a soul ring. So you tap your soul ring for 2 mana, and then you tap the grinding station to sacrifice the soul ring. When you do that, you're going to mill 3 cards into your graveyard, which you can use to recast the soul ring. And if you're using a mana positive rock or somehow a mana neutral rock, then this is like easy peasy, right? Like, you just tap the whatever, the soul ring for 2 mana. You break it. You use the 3 cards that you get from the grinding station. You exile those cards to pay for the Underworld Breach's ability, which I don't know how you wouldn't know what the card does, but just in case, it says each non-land card in your graveyard has escape 3. The escape cost is the mana cost of the card and exile 3 cards. So it's like a really good match, right? Like, the grinding station and the soul ring and the Underworld Breach, you tap the soul ring for 2 mana every time, and it's only going to cost you 1 mana to play it every time. And when you play an artifact like soul ring, that untaps your grinding station. So grinding station is tap, sacrifice an artifact, target player mills 3 cards, you're going to mill yourself. And it says whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, you may untap grinding station. And so there you're in an infinite loop, and if you're using soul ring, like a mana positive or even a mana neutral rock, you can just do this forever. You can use the mana rock to pay for itself, right? In the case of soul ring, you're going up mana every time you do it. Now, you're not going up cards in your graveyard, but if you started this loop with 5 cards in your graveyard, you're going to end this loop whenever you want with 5 cards in your graveyard, but they'll be whatever 5 cards you want them to be. You can decide which ones you exile while you're milling cards off the top of your deck. So you're going to want to start this combo with some cards in your graveyard, but you won't need that many to get it going. Let's just say 5. Like, 5 is a good number. Now, normally you have to have a mana positive rock to actually net mana, and you need to have at least a mana neutral rock just to break even, right? Okay, so what does Green Goblin do again? Didn't he have some busted text, something about cost reduction? Spells you cast from your graveyard cost 2 less to cast. That includes when you are casting them with your Underworld Breach. So that means that all of your mana rocks are mana positive mana rocks. So you can have a, let's just say Felwar Stone that produces well, for simplicity's sake, we're going to use Arcane Signet in this example. If you have Arcane Signet and you've got Underworld Breach and you've got Grinding Station, you can cast the Arcane Signet out of your graveyard with the Underworld Breach for 0 mana. So all of these 2 mana rocks become mana positive rocks that you can use to mill through your deck while generating mana. So that's pretty crazy, pretty busted, right? But here's the really messed up thing. This is the thing I wanted to tell you about. This is like the thing that if you get your head around this, you'll understand, I think, just how fucked up this Magic card is. Okay, Grinding Station with Underworld Breach, with nothing else. You can have no other permanents in play. This goes infinite. I'm going to let you think about that for a moment. Go on. Piece that together. So, Grinding Station also does not say other artifact. It says tap, sacrifice an artifact. Target player mills 3 cards. And whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, you may untap Grinding Station. If you're doing the loop with Grinding Station, you don't need to worry about that bottom text. But did you catch what I said there? If you're doing the loop with Grinding Station. So with Underworld Breach in play, you can use the Grinding Station to break the Grinding Station. So you can tap the Grinding Station, sacrifice the Grinding Station, mill 3 cards off the top of your deck, and now you can recast the Grinding Station for 0 mana out of your graveyard with the Underworld Breach. Then when the Grinding Station comes into play, it's going to be untapped. You can tap it again to sacrifice itself, and so on and so forth. Now, some of you might think, well, what's the point? We're not getting anywhere. Well, if you have any number of cards in your graveyard, even if you just have 2 cards in your graveyard, this is going to allow you to keep going until you find your 2 cards that you actually want. So it's going to find whatever combo that you have in your graveyard. Now, most of the time, you're going to have some kind of a rock in play anyway. So actually, usually, you're going to be netting mana as you go through the loop, and you're not going to be using Grinding Station. But you literally actually can just play Underworld Breach, Grinding Station, and usually you'll be set up to win the game right there. If you have a decently, like you say, 4 cards in your graveyard, you're there, right? You're going to be able to find some kind of a mana rock. Remember, you can play your mana rocks out of your graveyard for free. So while you're using if you only have the Underworld Breach and the Grinding Station, and let's just say you've got, 5 cards in your graveyard, while you're using this little combo to mill through your deck, you're going to hit mana rocks. And when you hit a mana rock, you can exile 3 cards to put the mana rock into play for free. No mana, I mean. And then you can tap that for mana, and now you can start breaking that with the Grinding Station. And so now you can go effectively infinite mana, or infinite enough mana. Definitely enough to stock your graveyard up with plenty of counter spells or whatever you need. Some kind of a draw utility. You've got tons of wheels in the deck. And then cast your Laboratory Maniac, and then cast a spell that, and you'll find a rock that makes blue mana. So even if you just have Underworld Breach and Grinding Station, you'll be able to, and say 5 cards in your graveyard, 0 mana, no untapped mana, you'll be able to use this combo to produce enough blue mana to cast your Laboratory Maniac after you've milled yourself out. Ta-da! We broke Underworld Breach. That's what I was thinking right before Green Goblin came out. Before Norman Osborn came out, I was thinking, they really need to go ahead. They need to print something that's going to break Underworld Breach. I was thinking that just before they printed it. Like, Breach isn't busted enough. I wasn't thinking that. Breach is uber busted. This guy, Malevolent Hermit, deserves a shout out in this deck. So automatically, all the time, always, this is a very good card. On the front side, it's a pretty good little stacks piece or a control piece. The way that it usually plays, if your opponents are paying attention, it means that your opponents have to be very careful about what they decide to play out, because at any point you can pay 1 blue, sack this guy, and counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3 mana. So they won't play their big stuff or their important things with this in play unless they have 3 extra mana. So it's kind of like a mana taxing effect. Eventually, somebody's going to mess up and they're going to play something that either they didn't think you would counter, or they're going to forget about it. And then you pop it. Or maybe you just want to play the other side, because the other half is actually the good half. Usually when this guy's in your graveyard, you can disturb it for 3 mana. So you find a way to discard it, and then for 3 mana, you have like a Grand Abolisher effect. I was going to say Grand Abolisher at home, but that's not fair, because this guy actually works on your opponent's turns too. It just says it's a flying 2/2, non-creature spells you control cannot be countered, period. That's it. Your stuff can't be countered. If Benevolent Geist would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead, whatever. But with Green Goblin in play, you can disturb this guy for 1 mana. This guy costs 1 blue mana to play. And in a lot of ways, it's like better Grand Abolisher. I mean, yes, there's pros and cons. There's trade-offs. So we have like the control stuff. We've got some discard outlets. I don't think you want to go too crazy with the discard outlets, but you do want to play some. We want ways to put the pieces that we want in the graveyard. We've got Ghostly Pilferer. We've got the Epheto Alchemist, which is just kind of an interesting tech piece. Let's check something. 30 minutes and 44 seconds. We've got the Volatile Storm Drake, which is 38 cents and it should almost just go in any deck that you're playing in budget competitive that has blue in it, because it's just so cheap and it's so powerful. But it fits pretty well in this deck because this is the kind of deck that we want to be. Yeah, Ghostly Pilferer, Unctus was the one. This is a way to put cards in your graveyard. Like discard cards, I should say. Diamond Lion also just goes totally nutter butters ham, goes off with Underworld Breach. Our main win condition in the deck is just going to be Laboratory Maniac, but I did include Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame. Or did we play Twin Flame? I think I actually did, yeah. So having Twin Flame and Electro Duplicate, I think is really helpful in decks like this, well, in red decks, because... well, I guess red decks that either have blue and or black, because when you have access to the transmute tutors in budget, that's a really powerful benefit of being in, well, Grixis, you get them all. So what I mean is, with Twin Flame, if you don't know how the combo works, if you have Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame, you cast Twin Flame, which just copies a creature until the end of turn. You cast your Twin Flame, copying whatever, targeting whatever, you hold priority. You don't pass priority. You flash in Dualcaster Mage, and the Dualcaster Mage is going to make a copy of the Twin Flame, and then the copy of the Twin Flame is going to make a copy of the Dualcaster Mage, and then the copy of the Dualcaster Mage is going to make a copy of the you get where I'm going. You make infinite guys, swing for lethal, whatever. You win the game. It's a very oldie goldie, budget competitive and really cEdh combo. Very well established. It's got a fantastic pedigree. It does work. It works. It puts in work. 5 mana, 2 cards, win the game. But if you have the Electro Duplicate and the Twin Flame as part of your combo package, that means that if you have Dualcaster Mage and any transmute card, so the transmutes that you usually play are going to be for 3 mana or 2 mana. Well, one of the things that kind of is tough is when you have a Dualcaster Mage in your hand and you draw the wrong transmute card. You draw a transmute for 3 and you needed the transmute for 2, or vice versa. So here we're playing Twin Flame and we're playing Electro Duplicate. Twin Flame is a bit expensive, but I thought it was worth it in this deck. This is going to be the way that we win a lot of our games. Like, while we're milling through and doing our combo things, we do have to have a way to literally end the game. And I included 2 ways to do that. It's Labman and Twin Flame Dualcaster Mage. But yeah, if you have Dualcaster Mage in your hand and you draw any of your transmutes, which would be like Muddle the Mixture or whatever the 3 mana ones are, Drift of Phantasms, any of them, you've got a way to find your A+B combo. All right, is there anything else that absolutely needs to be explained? There are so many things that I really feel like are just ultra important with this deck. We don't have time to talk about it all. Fervent Mastery. This is like probably the best card in the deck, next to Underworld Breach. So this is 5 mana. You can do it for 4, but if you do it for 4, you target an opponent, or I don't think it target. Well, let me read the card. It's 5 mana, sorcery. You may pay 4 rather than the spell's mana cost. If the 4 was paid, an opponent discards any number of cards, then draws that many cards. So somebody gets to like perfectly select. They get to take a mulligan, like a broken. A broken EDH mulligan. We don't want to let people do that. So most of the time, I would suggest that you try to come up with a way to pay the 5 mana. Like, I don't know, discard it, and then it's 2 mana if you've got your commander out. And it says, the text on it says, search your library for up to 3 cards, put them in your hand, shuffle, then discard 3 cards at random. Now, usually, this is it's like triple gamble, right? Usually this is a very, it's a gamble. It's even a triple gamble. Usually it's very spooky to cast this, and you don't end up putting it in your deck because it's like, it can really come back to bite you. Maybe if you're playing Underworld Breach in exactly a budget deck, you might try to work this in. But in this deck, you actually want to discard the cards that you're tutoring for. So let's just say you resolve your Fervent Mastery, and the 3 cards that you go after are Dual Caster Mage, Twin Flame, and some counterspell. Misdirection. Somehow I think I had the budget to include Misdirection. So you've got a free counterspell, you've got Dual Caster Mage, and you've got Twin Flame. You know what? Actually, most of the time you'd probably go for like Negate. So let's say you get Negate, Dual Caster Mage, and Twin Flame. Now, even if you don't have any other cards in your hand and you just discard those 3 cards, your Mayhem with your commander allows you to cast any of those cards and reduce them to just their pips. So now you can, for 1 red mana, Twin Flame, or for 1 red mana, Electroduplicate, which is another version of Twin Flame, but this is usually 3 mana, but it also has Flashback, which really layers in and synergizes very well with everything else the deck is trying to do. So you can discard those cards or not, it doesn't matter, you still have what you need to win the game. And if you discard the Negate, cool, you have 1 blue mana, counter target non-creature spell. So yeah, basically it's a 1-card win condition in the deck. Even if you don't have your Breach out, you just pay 5 mana, and the cards you're going to get are usually going to be Breach, Grinding Station, and something else, whatever you need in that moment. I said I got off of most of the actual the wheels that wheel everybody, and I did, but I did keep Windfall in. I just think it's too good to not include in a deck that's like literally benefiting from discarding cards. When you cast this, if somebody's got 5 cards, even 6 cards, like, what do people I think most of the time when this resolves, somebody has 6 cards in hand. So when that happens, you're discarding 6 cards, but if you've got your commander in play, you're still allowed to play all 6 of those cards at a discounted rate. And you're drawing 6 new cards. If you haven't figured that part out yet, I don't know what I'm talking. I mean, you've got that. Hopefully you've got that part down. Path of the Pyromancer is another really interesting card in this deck. Now, this is one of the wheels that I think are better, at least for breaching. Because another thing we can do is we can just use Windfall and Diamond Lion with Underworld Breach. If we have an Anger in the graveyard, or we've got a pair of Lightning Greaves laying around, or a Lava Spur Boots, a way to haste enable the Diamond Lion, then we can cast our wheel with the mana that we get from Diamond Lion. If you've ever seen the Lion's Eye Diamond Underworld Breach wheel thing happen, we can do that with this deck too. With Underworld Breach active, if we've got the Breach in play, we can crack the Diamond for 3 mana. Yes, we're discarding our hand, but we're discarding it with Breach in play, so we can still just play those cards out of our graveyard. Then we exile 3 cards to recast the Windfall, to draw 7 new cards or 6 new cards, however many. And then you can just continue to do that as long as you have more than the 3 cards that you need to exile. So you need to exile 3 cards for the you actually need a grip. You need a grip. That's not going to be a problem. But you get the idea. No, you don't need a grip in this deck because you can actually just use the Mayhem ability from the Goblin. Right, that's right. You don't even need the Underworld Breach to do that. Isn't that nuts? 39 minutes. Yeah, so you're not going to actually have to exile the cards in that case. So you don't need a ton of cards, but you're going to have a ton of cards, but you don't need them. Even just having Green Goblin in play, with a haste-enabled Diamond Lion and a Windfall, will allow you to crack the LED, that might as well be LED at this point, and then cast the Windfall. So you crack the LED, I'm just going to call it LED, for blue, and then you can, whatever you discard, let's say you use 1 wheel to discard another wheel, then you can, let's say you use this wheel to discard this wheel. Then we can crack the Diamond Lion, the LED, for blue mana, and we've discarded the Windfall, so now we can recast that wheel to wheel again, and we can just kind of run these wheels into each other. It's kind of like when you're playing a deck that, like the deck tech I did last time with the ninja guy, the samurai guy. Any deck that's got a lot of attackers, that's drawing a lot of cards, and you're trying to run a Time Walk into another Time Walk into another Time Walk, you're doing an impression of that, like a version of that with this deck, except instead of using dudes to attack and time warp effects, you're using wheels to wheel into wheels. And you can use things like, well, fake LED, LED at home, change of fortune. Like if you run into this while you're going through one of these wheel runs, this is like gonna just get you there. So let's say you ran a Path of the Pyromancers into a Windfall. And so total, let's say just total, you have discarded 14 cards. However many different ways you've discarded cards, you discarded a total of 14 cards. Change of Fortune says, discard your hand and then draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn. So if you've got 7 cards in your hand and you've already discarded 14, now you're going to discard your hand and add those to the total and then draw that many cards. So it counts the cards that you have in your hand at that point. So yeah, this is just that little, and this is another really amazing, like off the charts thing to use with Underworld Breach. This is a way to wheel with Underworld Breach and well, LED at home. What else? Breakthrough. This is a card that's good in no decks, except for this one. But in this deck, this is really, really good. So the card is 1 blue, draw 4 cards, choose X cards in your hand, and discard the rest. So normally you have to put a bunch of mana into this or it's going to just bite you. But here you're just going to pay 1 blue, draw 4 cards, then you're going to discard your hand. But you get to play all of the cards that you've discarded, right? So you get the idea. There's too much to discuss. I could be talking about the individual synergies and layers of crazy convoluted nonsense for another 45 minutes. Path of the Pyromancers. Maybe this will just be the last card that I talk about. Path of the Pyromancers is perfect for doing the LED, Brain Freeze, Underworld Breach line, because this is going to take the it's going to take the place of both your LED and your Brain Freeze. So usually when you use Breach and LED and Brain Freeze, you're using the Brain Freeze to stock your graveyard with additional card resources that you can exile to cast your stuff, and you're using the LED to produce the mana that you need to fuel it. So you use the, most of the time in like the standard cEdh, like budgetless cEdh version of this combo, you will use the Lion's Eye Diamond for the mana, and you will use the Brain Freeze for the cards. In this deck, you're going to use Path of the Pyromancer, and it's going to serve both purposes. If you've got your Underworld Breach in play, you've got your commander in play, this thing only costs 3 mana. It costs 2 generic and 1, and it says discard all the cards in your hand, add 1 red for each card discarded this way, then draw that many cards plus 1. So say you've got 5 cards in hand, plus this. Then when you cast this out of your graveyard, it costs 3 mana, and you're going to discard 5 cards and draw 6 cards and add 5 mana to your mana pool. So you went mana positive on that. Now you can use the cards you just discarded to exile to Breach to do it again and again and again. And you can wheel through your entire deck with just Path of the Pyromancer and your Underworld Breach. So that is like the deck. I pretty much just described the entire thing. Outside of that, it's rituals, some of which are very, very juiced in this deck exactly. Mana rocks, cards that don't get enough play, I think, in general, like Brass's Tunnel Grinder here. I want to talk about it, but I said that was going to be the last one. Guild Artisan, I'm not going to talk about. But if I were going to talk about it, I would tell you that this is a really big boon for having a 2-mana unblockable commander at your disposal. Like starting the game with Guild Artisan into curving it into like going turn 2 Guild Artisan and or even turn 2 Osborn, Normie Boy. Go turn 2 Normie Boy into turn 3 Guild Artisan. If I were talking about this card, I would talk about how you could then attack whichever player you need to. In Guild Artisans, if I was going to discuss it, I would say that it says, commander creatures you own have. Whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, you create 2 treasure tokens. So it's a good payoff for having an unblockable Normie Boy. I think that's my video, guys, and I think we've gone way past the time for goldfishing to be a thing. Let me know in the comments, though, if you want to see gold fishing. We will do gold fishing. We got a nice land base here, too. Here's some more cards that I'm not going to talk about. But if I were going to talk about any of the cards in the land base, I would talk about this one. Sacrifice, if you've got, this is Cephalid Coliseum, is the card I'm not talking about. Cephalid says, Threshold, sacrifice this land. Target player, that's going to be you, most of the time, draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards. With this deck, with this commander, that basically says, draw 3 cards, then don't discard 3 cards, and instead, all of those 3 cards cost 2 less mana to cast. That's my video, nerds. Yeah, I think this is a real deck. I think it's going to do real well. Don't forget that when you transmute one of your transmute tutors, that you actually are discarding that card. So with your commander in play flipped over, your Shred Memory will be a tutor for any 2 mana cost thing, like, I don't know, Underworld Breach or Grinding Station. But yeah, not only that, but you are discarding the Shred Memory to its transmute ability, which means you get to Mayhem it. So you can still cast it and get the thing that it actually was, well, the thing it says that it does on the card. You can transmute this to find your Breach, but then you can Mayhem play it for 1 black mana and remove up to 4 target cards in a single graveyard from the game. So you can hose that like nasty Underworld Breach gamer, or Protean Hulk, or Hoarding Broodlord, or Asmodeus, or whatever. You can whack somebody's graveyard who very, very desperately wants you to not whack their graveyard. Till next time, word to your mothers and fathers. Eastside until the day that I die. Limdol's Vault is amazing. It's fantastic. You should play it. Drown the Lock is goated in this deck. Muddle the Mixtures never looked better. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit jacked about this deck. Word to your mothers. Namaste, bitches.